Hi, it's Cosmic Charles, and I'm back with some updates and a full league for Temur Poison Storm. I'm trying out a new technique for my gameplay to hopefully make it a little smoother. Yeah, so I'll just get on to the deck now. I've mentioned a lot of things about this deck before, so this is going to just be a brief deck tech and update. So as I've said previously, these depletion lands are the core of the deck. They're the without them the deck wouldn't function because you're essentially capturing the mana off of these like ritual-esque lands into the Pentad Prism or the Everflowing Chalice. There's a few downsides to them though. They enter the battlefield tapped and they only produce one color. So with that downside means they're very bad for fixing. Another downside is that they come into play with these depletion counters, and should those depletion counters be removed, you'd have to sacrifice them, which is why I run 16 proliferators, 12 cheap ones, and 4 expensive. And yeah, then you can also proliferate these chalices and these pentad prisms that you've used to capture the mana from these tap lands. Yeah, and then after that, what you want to do is, well, before that, really, you want to have them infected so that you're proliferating as much as possible and just poisoning out of the game. Now, one of the Achilles heels of this deck is the fact that you run, well, I think here I run 4, 8, 12, 15, 17, 21, 25 mana sources. And since you're one of these storm/egg decks that has a high draw velocity because of Manamorphose, Contentious Plan, Prologue, you can quickly draw through your deck, but you have poor draw selection. So as you're filtering, there's going to be lands cropping up in here. Now with a deck like Cycle Storm, for example, you can run less lands. Like I run 11 lands in my version of Cycle Storm, and a bunch of rituals as well. Mana sources, I suppose, is what you would call them. Because while you do have very high draw velocity, you have one big draw spell that can just completely go through your lands, and or all your spells, and it gets to be like almost infinite. But in this deck, we don't really have. While we do have fast draw velocity, it's not as fast as Cycle Storm, so you do need to run more lands, and you're lacking one big draw spell to basically go infinite. You're comboing off as much as you possibly, or you're storming off as much as you possibly can, and then hopefully you can just kill them out. Because the upside of doing this is that it's more difficult to interact with this deck. There's no card at common that can remove poison counters that I'm aware of. Maybe Medicine Runner. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that card in a while. Yes, and so that's why you would be one of the reasons why you play this over a Cycle Storm deck. Graveyard Hate doesn't matter. Yeah, and I think that's basically. Oh yes, and we do run these larger card draw spells to help with that, but you don't have one big card draw spell, with the exception of Tolarian Winds, which can draw up to. I've only drawn at most 6 cards with it, which is still pretty good because you do draw a lot of lands, but it does make the play of this deck more difficult because now you need to think about Tolarian Winds while you're making your land drops. And Tolarian Winds I found to be much better than 4C for what it's doing. 4C was trying to do a similar thing, get rid of your lands, filter through your lands, and that's why Deep Analysis is back in the deck, because Tolarian Winds works much better with just raw card draw, and also I thought it would be very rare, but quite frequently, not frequently, occasionally, 4C would just be an expensive divination because everything in my top is what I wanted. And while that's fine in the later stage of the game, early on in the game, that's not fine because you really do need to bottom those lands, or in the early game, you top the lands with the 4C because you need to make your land drops. So I found Tolarian Winds has been better. It does have a pretty big downside, though, and that is it's not really that proactive as a draw card. You kind of need to charge it up over turns, which is why it does work really well with Weather the Storm for that reason. You can cast Weather, gain a bunch of life, and slowly charge your winds, or you can hold control, cast winds, then Weather if you really wanted to. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. But yes, you do need to charge this card with your larger card draw spells like the Resurgence Insight and Deep Analysis. And it's very easy to get your wins. You have 3 Merchant Scroll and a Muddle the Mixture. So you essentially have access to, you have like 6 access points, including the winds itself, to get it. Muddle the Mixture is another new addition. I was running mystical teachings in this spot, and in this current league, I'll show you that's what was here. Everything else is the same, though. Yeah, but now I'm running Muddle the Mixture. I completely slept on it, actually. I think it's going to be a pretty decent card because, yeah, it's really good with Merchant Scroll. Now I finally have a main deck counterspell because I can just simply transmute it. In fact, if I really wanted to, you go Merchant Scroll, Muddle, Weather the Storm. So it's like you have 8 copies of Weather. I don't know if that would be good. You need to have a lot of mana to do that, but you never know. It's also like pretty bad card disadvantage too, but sometimes you might be in that position. Yeah, and I've been reducing my basics because I found this deck really just needs these lands in particular, the tap lands. And these are almost like pseudo lotus petals that don't go away. Yeah, and that's the deck. I'm not really going to do a... Oh, I guess I should talk about Giga Drowse. So Giga Drowse is very good for preventing counter magic from happening. I don't quite call it protection. I did try to use it as protection, and in some of the... one of the matches that I played in the league, and I found it does not really replace Dispel. In hindsight, it was obvious, but I think it was still worth testing out and finding out for myself. Yeah, and of course you have Inside Out, Walls, Fans, Scattershot, various catch-all. Breath Weapon, also various catch-all. Scattershot's also very good against fairies. Pyroblast, Hydroblast, Peace, Serene Heart, yeah, and of course Dispel. And yeah, that's the deck. And I hope to see you for the league. And we're back. It's Cosmic Charles with match 1, game 1 of the league I'll show you today. So let's just take a look at our opening hand here. It's pretty good. It has a lot of lands, which I like. I've been finding frequently that you want these mana heavier hands. Maybe 4 is a little excessive, but 3 is a good number because these are your rituals, so it's important to have them. You can get away with like a chalice and like an untapped land as well. So there are different ways of doing it, but having many lands in your hand is one of the ways. All right, so I'll just press play and narrate as I go. So there's the Scary. It's pretty good. I played Scary because I have a second Scary. There's Woodlot, so Pentad Prism's online. Looks like it's an older Affinity list. And here I take the opportunity to poison and proliferate. So now that's pretty good. I like doing that. Our opponent seems to be getting in for 2, only 2. I like that. I know that can be very explosive. And they're leaving up a Metallic Rebuke, so I just play another land and pass. They're getting in for 2 again. They're getting in for 4. Of note, they still have Metallic Rebuke up. They seem to be representing this pretty hard. Okay, I decide to go off because I believe it's possible that they can kill me here. Into a Metamorphose. Thirsting Roots, great draw. I can, yep, another Prism. Thirsting Roots is now a little ritual. Proliferate, proliferate. Proliferating away. That means I can now use my Vivisert. Oh, I guess Metamorphose. I'm still trying to play around the Metallic Rebuke a little bit. Another Thirsting Roots, that's great. That means I can safely resolve this Vivisurgeon's Insight now. And here comes the Vivisurgeon's Insight, effectively costing 3 because of these Pentad Prisms. And that was pretty good. Into Contentious Plan, boom, boom, boom. I am worried about him killing me next turn, so I really want to see a Weather. And now I can Tolarian Winds, and if here, I'll pause here. So, if he had the, what's it called? The Metallic Rebuke, I think he should have used it there. I'm starting to suspect he was just bluffing, because then I would have been out of mana. Alright, and I'll just press play. And I pick the Contentious Plan, and I proliferate away. He's at 7. He's at... boop, 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 boop. 8, and there's the Weather, right on time. Gaining an even, I think, 39 life. Alright, so I gain 39, and I pass it back, and our opponent concedes. And that was game 1. Hopefully I'll see you back for game 2. And we're back for the Second game of the first match of this league. Alright, and I'll just start with how I boarded. So as you can see here, I took out 2 Chalice and a Deep Analysis for 1 Dispel, and anytime I put a new card in the sideboard, I like to bring it in to see how it's going to run. To see, try and test it, to see what it's capable of and what it's not capable of. So I'd put in 2 Giga Drafts to see, maybe I can use it as both counter control and as like a little fog. It's possible. So I'm going to see if that's a viable strategy or not. Alright, and let's take a look at my hand. It's missing a second color of mana for these Pentad Prisms, but it does have a Prologue, a Dispel, an Insight, and 2 Prism. So I think that's a keep. Alright, I'll just press play and see what happens. Our opponent looks like they're mulliganing down to 4, so I can still lose. It's possible. I am like a clunky combo deck, but I'm pretty sure we've got this one because that Manamorphose was huge. Because now I can safely resolve this Prism with Dispel backup, and there's another colored land source, so I can do a second Prism if I'm feeling feisty, which I'm not. But it doesn't quite matter because the opponent concedes, likely due to poor draw. Alright, and that was the first match, and I will see you for the second. And we're back for match 2 of the league. And we've opened up on a hand with too much mana to keep, unfortunately. If I had a couple of redraws, I would consider keeping this, but with none, I can't. So I mulligan. And this hand is risky, but I think it's worth keeping, because I have this Scary plus Augury, so I can use a Scary probably twice, and hopefully I can find another land off of this Augury. The bottom here is probably the Merchant Scroll. This is I don't have enough mana to be Merchant Scrolling right now, and I already have a Phyresis in hand. So I'll just press play and see how it goes. I play a Scary, and our opponent goes Monastery Swiftspear. And I'll pause here because I cast my Augury. And I take the Weather, but as you can see, that was a very difficult choice for me. Because there's a forest, a land I wanted, and another Augury. But in this matchup, I thought the Weather of the Storm would be very valuable. It's really unfortunate that my untapped green source was in this pile and is now going to the bottom. So I'm banking on drawing a Hickory Woodlot off the top. Or maybe a Sandstone Needle into something. Alright, so I will just press play and see how it goes. I proliferate my Scary, and I pass. Our opponent casts a Synth into a Blast Runner. Not good for me. And I draw that plan, trying to hit another land, but I miss. Our opponent is going absolutely ham. Oh, wow. And we're probably just dead here. Yeah, we're just dead, unfortunately. The second land came too late, and it wasn't even the right color. So I will see you for the second game. And we're back for the second game of the burn matchup in the league so far. Our first burn matchup. Maybe there'll be more. It is a very popular deck. And I thought I'd start with our sideboard here. I decided to cut 2 Chalice, Merchant Scroll, and a Deep Analysis, and one other thing I think, the Mystical Teachings. So I know Teachings can get Weather, but I think that you're just not going to have the time to do that. Deep Analysis, so one of it is not necessary in the deck, so I cut that. The Merchant Scroll, again, a timing thing. You want to cut down on these cards at your tutors, basically, because it adds time. And I cut the 2 Chalice as well. I brought in 2 copies of Breath Weapon, not Scattershot, because they might have that too. That costs 2 life each time you target it, so I'm not doing that. And I also brought in the Hydroblast, so I can Merchant Scroll for protection should I need it, or just draw it. And the 2 Moments piece for protection against their go wide strategy. Alright, let's see how that worked for me. Oh, my opening hand, yes. It's a good hand, I'll keep it. The Prologue, I got a redraw, I can get a Proliferator, Tolarian Winds, maybe I can hold some of these lands back. I might try and hold back, a base of 1 or 2, just to help this Tolarian Winds get along. Because, like I said, you do need to charge this up a lot of the time for it to be good. Alright, and I'll just press play. I lead on a Scary, because I have the island, and he goes Blast Runner. That's a pretty good draw for Breath Weapon, so I decide to Phyresis him. I have this island, so I don't need to tap this Scary. He goes the second Blast Runner, and I just pass with Breath Weapon. It looks like he suspects it, so he only gets in for 2, and I wipe the field, and there is a Reckless. I play my Hickory Woodlot, and I just pass here. I want to draw this set as long as I possibly can. He might have a Pyroblast or something. Big draw on the weather. Again, my life total is pretty high, so I'm just not concerned. I just want him to take as much time as possible, setting his board up and doing those things. I just want to drag this out. And he gets in for 1. And a Godolph Rebirth, so that's a pretty good clock. Now you might be thinking, that's a Storm Cannon 3, why not Weather? I can get a lot more than that. And let's see if I go for it here. I go Manamorphose, more green, Thirsting Roots, probably playing around the Hasty Goblin here. Prologue into another Weather, good draw. Merchant Scroll. I don't get the protection here because I don't have very many big draws. And it looks like I take the Manamorphose off of that pile. I go Manamorphose. And there's a Vivisurgeon, but I get to storm off and gain 21, I believe, here. I took the Manamorphose out of those other cards, like other than the Thirsting Roots or a land, because I just need to keep drawing. And there is the Swift Spear, followed by Voldaren Epicure, followed by another Epicure, and that is a very wide field. But luckily I have a lot of life. I lead on Vivisurgeon. Good. And just draw a bunch of cards. I don't think he can kill me from 26. But just in case I might gain 9 here. Proliferate, 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 because I have another Weather in hand. And I go Weather. I'm going to hold back these Hickory Woodlot and this Needle to fuel this Tolarian Winds. Our opponent gets in for a lot. And I draw another Vivisurgeon. So here, I'm a little worried about Pyroblast. I'm trying to provoke him to Smash to Dust this Chalice, so I can get more life off of Weather. Or sorry, Smash the Smithereens. Yeah, there's a Pyro. Gets my Vivisurgeon. I use that to gain a little bit of life. Unfortunately, he didn't bite on blowing up the Chalice, because I'm pretty sure, based on how he's playing, he has a bunch of hate in his hand. So the Pyroblast got my insight, but I feel like it was worth at least getting some life off of that. And he Smithereens my Chalice there. There's a Bolt at my face. There's a Lava Dart. Pump, pump, pump. And they come in for a bunch. I'm down to 27. And I'm just going to bide my time again. I want him to tap out low. I don't know if he's going to, though. So I go Augury on his end step. I grab a plan. Proliferate, 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 and proliferate. They're at 8 now. And I draw, and that should do it. So I'm pretty happy about that. Augury. And 2 Manamorphose. I take Manamorphose because I don't want to run out of blue mana. And just in case he has a Pyro or something. And there we go. And that was the second game of the first match. And I hope to see you for the third. Okay, welcome back to game 3 of the second match against Burn. And let's take a look at this hand. Again, it's missing a second color of mana, but other than that, it's very good. I really like these Prisms. Much of the time when I'm playing post-board with Prism, I like to hold them back in my hand anyway, rather than use them as ramp, because I don't want them to get, smashed or dusted or all the other various hate that's running around because of Affinity. So, let's just press play and see how it went. Our opponent leads on a Swift Spear. That's good for them. I think that's probably their best start. I go Needle, and they go Implement of Combustion into a Blast Runner. Very good start for them. And huge draw, Manamorphose, so that really helps. So now I can land this Prism. Hopefully they don't have Dust, but I don't actually guess now I don't have the leisure to play around it. But I do have this Experimental Augury in case they do, so at least I can get the mana back. So they're coming in hot with 5 at least 5. Oh, more. There's another bolt. Yeah, I'm liking the fact they tapped out, though. I'm down to 8. There's a weather. Let's see what I do. So I'm going to pause here. I grab another augury off of this augury, and I proliferate. Now, you might be wondering, why haven't I poisoned him yet? The reason why is I don't have the luxury of spending the 2 mana now. You can kind of look at the prologue almost like a merchant scroll, you know? It adds 2. So I'm hoping to get my storm count pretty high for this weather so I'm not dead. And I cast another augury. Let's take a look at this top 3 here. Oh, sorry, now I go prologue. Yes, that makes sense. I have the mana now, so I prologue first so I can get more off this proliferation and increase my storm count. So I cast augury, and this is my cup overfloweth. So I really want all of these. But there's one that stands out amongst them all, and that's the breath weapon. It does mean I'll have a difficult choice to make between Weather the Storm and breath weapon. So let's see which one I do. I'm pretty sure it should be breath weapon. I don't think they can kill me from 8 on 2 lands, and this will buy me a lot of time. I can always get that 4 storm count back later. I'll just press play here. I take the breath weapon and I leave it up with my prisms. And I just decide to wipe now. They go Blast Runner. And I play a Hickory Woodlot, not in any rush. I can always gain life with my weather. They get in for 2. I untap, and I begin to storm off a little bit. So this Thirsting Roots is a little mini ritual, adds 1. Thirsting Roots again. And hopefully I can get a big spell here. I really don't want... Oh, here's nice. So I Merchant Scroll because I suspect Pyroblast. And now I can get protection because of this Vivid Surgeon's Insight. I draw 3, and I draw another weather, so that's really good. I don't think I double weather here. I still value the count. Oh, I do double weather here, yeah. I guess I can, because I go down to 1, and this plays around Artifact Destruction nicely. And they get in for 2. I draw another Woodlot. I play this one, because I do want to have a lot of mana. But these 2 I should hold back, yeah, for the wins. And they get in for 2. And I'm going to keep this island back for wins. Maybe I should have kept back the Woodlot. There's another creature. Things are starting to get... Oh, that Moment's Peace probably will seal this up. I doubt they'll be able to kill me. So here there is a combo with Tolarian Winds and Moment's Peace. You can discard it and use it. But because they're leaving up 1 red mana, I don't do that here. Instead, I just elect a Moment's Peace now, which may have been a mistake because I have the Tolarian Winds and I am at 31. They play the Blast Runner, and here's something that I like. I can cast the Tolarian Winds, and I can discard the Hydroblast that I got for protection. So just the presence of it was nice. So you got a little bit of virtual card advantage there. And there we go. And that was the match. Our opponent has seen enough. All right, and I will see you for match 3. Okay, and we're back for the 3rd match of the video. And let's take a look at my opening hand. So, I don't think this hand is keepable. If it had a Manamorphose, I would consider keeping it because of this Pentad Prism and these Chalices. But I don't think it's keepable here, so I probably mulliganed. Yes, I did. This hand is more keepable because I have the Scary and the Augury. It also has 2 copies of Weather, so I can put one of them back down. Alright, I'll just press play and see how it went. Okay, so it's a Blast Runner, so it's looking like Burn again. And I play a Scary and I pass the turn. They lead on a Epicure into Goldoltha. Very good start for them. They get him for 3. Another Scary, that's a good draw. That lets me play the Chalice so I can ramp next turn. That was pretty big, so I'm taking a lot of damage here. But I do have the Weather, so let's see if I can draw the Green Source. Too late, unfortunately. The Green Source entered the battlefield tapped, so I had to concede there. And that was game 1, on to game 2. And we're back for the 2nd game of the 3rd match. So let's take a look at my sideboard. I did the same thing I did in the previous match. I cut 2 Chalice, a Merchant Scroll, a Deep Analysis, and a Teachings for 2 copies of Breath Weapon, 2 copies of Moment's Peace, and 1 copy of Hydroblast. I cut the Chalice because of their artifact hate, so it's not as reliable, and I cut these Tutor and that bigger draw effect just because I think I need to be a little faster. So hopefully I don't need to rely on ramping as much, because I can run things like Breath Weapon and Fog to prolong the game that way rather than having to go faster. Okay, so let's see how that did and take a look at my opening hand. Really good. I like having 3 lands. I especially love this island, so I don't have to be too worried about proliferating. This Breath Weapon could be very nice. Alright, I'll just press play and see what happened. I lead on the Woodlock because I have this island. They go Chain Lightning. Okay. That's a good draw. The Pentad Prism's online. So I can do some ramping. Oh, Raise. Aggressive. And Rebirth. Extremely aggressive. Well, that's good for me because of this Breath Weapon. I'll probably take 1, I guess, or take 3 from it. For now, I lead on this Prism because I don't have to worry about Smash to Smithereens because they have no lands in the battlefield. And I proliferate. They go Epicure, and they get him for 3. Not too concerned about this 3 damage because of the Weather the Storm that I drew. And now I think I just wipe the field. I have to do it now because I need to get this proliferation off. I can't wait because Thirsting Roots is a sorcery. There's a Synthesizer, probably digging for more land. And they don't hit. I land Chalice into Prologue. And I have that Hydroblast, which is great protection for my artifacts. They go Implement, and they pass the turn. I go Contentious Plan. And I proliferate, and I forget to proliferate the Chalice, but like I said, you're not going to get them all. That was pretty bad because I only had like 3 things to proliferate here. And they cracked the Implement, and to another Implement. So it's looking pretty good for me. Moment's Peace, pretty nice. I tap out for a Pentad Prism into Vivisurgeon. Effectively costing 3. That's another Breath Weapon, so I'm looking pretty good so far. And I pass the turn. I'm going to save this Pentad Prism for Storm Count. There's a Swifty into a Chain Lightning, and here they make a little bit of a mistake because I think they didn't realize I can copy the Chain Lightning, or maybe they didn't think I would. And they respond with a Fire Blast. So that brings me down to 2. But again, I still have Weather up just in case there's some type of shenanigans that might happen. So I untap. I go Prism. I go Prism. Metamorphose into Prologue. That's a good hit. Contentious Plan, perfect. That actually adds 1 mana here because I got rid of my Prism, but it's still ramping me. Another Prism. Again, these are free spells, getting that Storm Count high. Merchant School, great hit. I can get an Augury with that to keep going off. I grab the Insight out of that pile. 2 mana sources, so that was the right one. Now I can Weather the Storm and gain a bunch of life. I guess 9 times 3 life. And yeah, and then they don't draw another land, and that was the second game. I'll see you for the third one. And we're back for game 3. Alright, so this hand is very risky. I only have 1 land, it's a Hickory Woodlot. I do not have a Proliferator. But I do have a Weather the Storm and a Moment's Peace. I also don't like the fact that I don't like the fact that I have 2 wins, but I do like the fact that I have Prologue. So this is a very risky hand, but I do think I keep it here. I don't know if that was right or not. But let's see how it goes, and I'll just press play here. Our opponent leads on Goblin Blast Runner, pretty good. I just go Hickory Woodlot and pass. They go Swifty, and they get in for 2. Missing a land drop, notably. Looks like they kept a 1-lander. I go Metamorphose, good draw at the island. I take the Hickory Woodlot there because the I don't have red for Breath Weapon, and I have a Moment's Peace, which does something similar. And I need a lot of lands for this weather to be good. And they get in for 3, exiling the red Elemental Blast, which I'd like to see. That Scary was a very nice draw. Let's see what they do here. They go Synth into Chain Lightning, which they can't cast, and they get in for 3. So it's looking pretty good for me so far. Of note, I haven't Hydroblast is a good draw, but I really need to see some type of more of my early proliferation spells, because I only have 2 counters on these lands. I try and find one, and I hit one, great. And now they're poisoned, and I can get some more counters on my lands. But this Vivisurgeon is looking a little unlikely to be cast, especially into a red blast that they might have. They get in for 3, and I simply fog here. It's too risky to go below 9. They land an Epicure, taking me to 8. This is very risky because of Gal Blast, and I'll pause here. So, I drew a second copy of Vivisurgeon's Insight, and it's looking very difficult to cast those. One thing I could have done, if I had an 8th mana, I don't, I only have 7 here. But if I had 8, I could have gone Vivisurgeon's Insight, expect them to cast a Pyroblast, counter with Hydroblast, and then Weather the Storm, and that would be good. But unfortunately, I only have 7 mana. So it's looking like I might be priced into Tolarian Winzing these Vivisurgeons away. I would like to get these Weather the Storms off first, and I don't really have enough little spells to do the, chain, hold control, cast winds, then weather. So I'm in a little bit of a tight spot here. Let's see what happened. And I press play. The opponent untaps, and they just get in for 4, trying to get me into double Gal Blast range, I imagine. And I do Moment's Peace. Right now, I could blow them out if they try and double Gal Blast with Peace. I go Prism for Storm Count, and for ramping, and I pass the turn. They go Bolt, and I take that opportunity to Weather. So I didn't really ramp myself there. I captured the mana for 2, and I sacrificed a land. So these Vivisurgeon's Insight are never getting cast. I'm down to 14. I'm going to have to discard them. They go Raise. Thank God I have the Hydroblast, because that would have ended the game right there. And there's a Lightning Bolt. And here I take the advantage to do a sneaky little I had 2 Weather the Storms, because going down to 3 against a burn deck is always scary. And they get in for 8. I'm down to 15. And I go Tolarian Winds into Roots, into Plan. Pretty good there. What do I hit? Chalice, which I hold back for Storm Count, just in case I draw my 3rd copy of Weather. And they discard their Bushwhacker, and they get in for that, down to 9. Good draw on that Vivisurgeon's Insight. I only have 1 left. Very big draw. Weather and Augury. Great. So now I can go Augury into another Augury. That's good. So keep proliferating. So I'm not going to die next turn. Into Prism. And here I elect to just burn the Prism for 3 life here. I don't know if that was right or not, but that's what I choose to do. And I gain a bunch of life, up to 27. They go Rebirth. And they get in for a bunch. I untap. I get to Merchant Scroll, probably for an Augury. I Augury for the Insight. Now, there was a Breath Weapon in that pile. That would be pretty good here, but then I'd have no cards in hand. So I think it's better to draw 3. I draw 3, I proliferate. That takes him to 9, and the Contentious Plan should finish them off. Next turn, I ran into blue mana because I sacrificed 3 life for that Prism. So that did cost me there, but I don't think I could really have died from 20. Not with only 1 land. And then they concede. And yeah, that was game 3. And on to the 4th match of the league. Okay, match 4 of the league. I'm currently 3-0, so I'm feeling pretty pumped here. We're up against Kazuhiko, and if I pronounce that correctly, probably not. And I have the Sandstone Needle and the Sappers and Scary and Augury, looking like a very strong hand. So let's just see how I did. I'll press play. I lead on Needle because I have Metamorphose, and I'd rather be lower on counters on that. Fairy Seer. So it's fairies, a difficult matchup, especially the mono blue one, and there's Sappers and Scary. I faced mono blue fairies once before. I took 1 game, but I did lose the match. They go Circuit, and they get in for 2. And there's Seer. I like the fact they tapped out there because it lets me prologue and proliferate. I go Woodlot, I go Prologue, and I go Proliferate, grabbing the Vivisurgeon over the Energy Refractor, Pentad Prism there. I'll get better at pausing on those auguries in the future. And they get in for 3. Yeah, I have these lands, so I didn't want to take the prism because I already have these things. And I drew another one. I don't want to play it into counter magic quite yet. I'm hoping they tap out a little lower. And then they get in for 3. And mutagenic growth me down to 11. So I could be dead next turn. They pop at the field. Nope, they leave a counter up. I lead on prism. They respond with a spell stutter sprite, which allows me to get this Vivisurgeon's Insight down. Insight, and I proliferate, and I play an island into another prologue. Oh, Manamorphose, I guess I'm storming off here. And there's a weather. Yeah, that's a good idea. I drew a lot of land, so I needed that storm count. And they get in for 4. And they bring back the spell stutter sprite. Discarding a Moon Circuit Hacker. Good choice. You just want to leave counter magic open. I draw another weather, so I'm going to try and bide my time. But notably, that's very difficult against a deck with combat that draws them cards, because they can just constantly hold back counter magic, and the life gain's not going to help me that much there. I do like they tapped out a little low. Maybe I can have a chance now of going under their counter magic. But they are drawing 4 cards a turn, so it's not that likely. Another insight, so I try and bait them out here with a prologue. They don't bite. Bait with roots. They bite on the roots. That's good. That allows me to resolve this Vivisurgeon's Insight. I draw 3. Oh, yeah, the Spell Pierce is really good there. It means that I can't do the Weather the Storm. And Proliferate, one of the rare cases where you should cast Spell Pierce when your opponent can pay for it. And I really want this Winds to resolve. Maybe I can get there. We'll see. They get in for a bunch. I'm down to 5. They have 6 mana open, and they're drawing 4 cards a turn, so it's looking very unlikely that I can get through all that. Draw another land. I pass the turn because I have these weathers, and again, I'm just really hoping that, they tap down a little low. Maybe I should have gone for it there. I don't know. I go Augury. They go Spell Stutter Sprite. And I weather, I guess. Yeah, I was considering going Winds into weather, but I decided I'd just weather here. I have a lot of mana, so I can do it on my turn. Get 1 more draw. Also, I think the chances of this Tolarian Winds resolving is like close to 0. Alright, there's a prism. I try and bait with a prism. They don't bite. I go Tolarian Winds to draw 4. They let it resolve, surprisingly. And I start trying to storm off. There's a plan. They counter the plan. I respond with an augury. They counter the augury. So I can go Vivisurgeon into proliferate. Now, if I had 2 Pentad Prisms, maybe I could have gotten there. But I don't think I can get there with just the 1. We'll see. Yeah. And that's game. Notably, I was 1 short of a Weather the Storm. So maybe I could have gotten there in an alternate reality. Who knows? But that was game 1. All right, and I'll see you for game 2. And we're back for game 2 of the Fairies match. All right, let's take a look at how I boarded. I took out 2 Chalice, and I took out Mystical Teachings and a Deep Analysis and 2 Weather the Storm, because you do need some weather to stay alive, but it's not very good for the reasons that you saw last game, because you can gain a lot of life, but the issue is that they're drawing a lot of cards. I brought in 2 Giga Drows because it's very difficult when the counter mirror, like they have Spell Stutter Sprites for Dispel and things like that. So Giga Drows, you can just tap them out and then go off. And I also brought in all of my field wipe, because that's one way that you can win, is to wipe their field to stop their engine. And then they can run out of counter magic, and then you can continue. But it's very difficult for them to run out of counter when they're drawing every turn. You might be tempted to board in Moment's Peace, but it's not. I don't think it's worth it. It only fogs 1 turn, and they have counter magic in hand, so they can always counter, the Moment's Peace. And then maybe you can go off on your turn. Possibly you could have utility in that way, but I just don't think it's worth it in that situation. Yeah, so that's how I boarded. And and I brought in a Pyroblast as well. So that's how I boarded. Let's see how this hand looks. I like it. The 2 augury is pretty good. I will need to see some bigger draw than just this, but I think I should be able to get there with a hand that has a good amount of land in the Giga Drowse. Of note, the Giga Drowse is looking pretty bad right here because I don't have a lot of blue mana. It's something that I was worried about happening with it, but I still think it's worth running. We'll see. It's a recent addition. All right, and I will just press play. I'll lead on a needle. But my tap land. They go Fairy Seer. And I just play an island and pass. Oh no, I Merchant Scroll for my prologue because I have this forest, so it means I don't have to rely as much on my depletion land. And they tap out for a Moon Circuit Hacker and a Fairy Seer. So here I can't do the prologue augury trick because of Merchant Scroll, but it's a little slower, yes, but it did get me there. And they get him for 3, and they go Ninja of the Deep Hours. And I go Giga Drowse, their island. This is a bad use of Giga Drowse, by the way. I don't know if it was worth it just to resolve this Thirsting Roots and a Never-Flowing Chalice. They get in. And they cast a Fairy Seer. And I go Hickory Woodlot. So I have a lot of mana now, but not very much of it is blue, unfortunately. Now there I probably should have responded with an augury, or I should respond on their end step. Responding here is a poor choice. Because of course they have the counter magic for it, but maybe they would have ninja'd again. And maybe then I could have resolved that augury. Who knows? It's also possible they just would have never tapped out. But you have to keep your mind open for stuff like that. And I go Thirsting Roots, and they counter with Counterspell. And I go Augury in response, and I grab that Weather the Storm. I don't pyro the Counterspell my Thirsting Roots here, because I'd rather keep that if I ever draw some card draw. Tolarian Winds is hitting one of its weaker spots here. Like I said, you have to charge it up, and I have nothing in hand that I want to discard. There's a Pentad Prism, which I'm going to hold on to. And, I concede here, because I just don't think there's any way I was getting there. All right, and that was game 2 and the 4th match, so I'm 3-1. Okay, and here we are for the 5th and final match of the league. And we've opened up on this hand here. I really like it. Yes, it's flooded, it has a lot of mana, but I like starting on that way because it gives me a lot of mana to do things. I do have to hope that these Manamorphose hit some, either a chain of card draw spells, or a big card draw spell, and I'm also lacking my prologue, but I think it's a fine place to start with. So I'll just press play. Cliffgate, I'm really happy to see that. I've played Gates 3 or 4 times now, and I've yet to lose. So we'll see how this one went. And black. I untap and I play an island, and I go Merchant Scroll for Phyresis, and I guess I just that's right, Manamorphose to Phyresis and Proliferate. So there I'm being a little more conservative with the poisoning. I'm trying to do a little faster. It may have been a waste to Storm, though. I'm not sure if that was a good call. I could have just... The better thing may have been just to hold back and wait there. We'll see. I play a Sandstone Needle, and I pass the turn. So here, the Manamorphose and the Pentad Prism are really helping. And they get in for 7, so I need to be quick. I can't just drag my feet anymore. I need to start trying to win. So I land a Prism, and then I go Aura of Chalice into Prism, into Manamorphose, blue, into Thirsting Roots, and I Proliferate. I'm really hoping they don't have that Smash to Dust, whatever it's called. Manamorphose, blue, blue. Prologue, draw a card, Thirsting Roots, Proliferate. And Then I go Weather the Storm. Now, if I was trying to play around the Smash to Dust, what I should have done, I should have used the Thirsting Roots not to proliferate, but to grab an island. Because if this Pentad Prism gets destroyed, I've run out of blue mana. I only have the one. Yeah, and that happens. And I go also at a green, so I go Weather the Storm here. So I really should have used the Thirsting Roots differently. And yeah, and there's my 4th Sandstone Needle. So here I got cut out of colors. I could have played around it though, but it's looking like it might not have even have mattered. And I don't play the Hickory Woodlot there. I'm not sure why. I guess I'm just hoping for Tolarian wins. Yeah, there's nothing I can do. And I lose the first game. And game 2 of the 5th match. So, let's check out my sideboard. So it looks like I took out 4 cards, 2 Chalice of Mystical Teachings, and a Weather the Storm. I took out Weather here because you do need it to stay alive, but eventually it gets to the point where it's not really going to matter. I should have boarded my Moment's Peace if I did that, though. I don't know why I didn't. Oh, I know why. Because I boarded in Giga Drowse instead. So I'm trying to test it out, like similar to what I did in game 1, to see if I can use it both as like a fog and as, counter magic. So we'll see if maybe I draw it and see if that works out here. And I also boarded in a Dispel, so I still had access with Merchant Scroll for counter magic if I needed it. And I boarded in my Scatter Shot too for removal. Not my Breath Weapon, but my Scatter Shot. I don't know how well that board was. Again, this is just my 6th league with the deck. But we'll see how it worked. All right, and let's check out this opening hand. So I have 2 Hickory Woodlot, a Thirsting Roots, and a Prism. I think that's pretty good. I think this might be a time where I should use Thirsting Roots to grab an island, because that unlocks Prism and gives me a lot of blue. Let's see if that is what happened, and I will press play. I lead on a Hickory Woodlot. They go Citadel Gate. I go Sandstone Needle. And they go Manor Gate. And I go another Hickory Woodlot. They lead on Dawnbringer, and they gain 2 life. Getting a clock down. I got a Merchant Scroll, which I like, so I guess I'd simply go Pentad Prism. Into Pentad Prism, not playing around Dust to Dust, don't have an option. So here I can use the roots simply to proliferate now, which allows me to go Deep Analysis and 2 more Merchant Scrolls. So perhaps I should have Merchant Scrolled there, because I did not want that's pretty bad. This is one of the weaknesses of Merchant Scroll. You really don't want to see like this many in your hand. It's too slow. Oh yeah, now I'm out of blue again. I can get 1 with the Thirsting Roots, but I think I'm gonna have to get lucky here. And there's a prologue. All right, and they go Gatekeeper Vine, or Creeper Vine rather, and they get a Citadel Gate, making that Basilisk Gate pretty big. I go Hickory Woodlot. And here I'm just praying for like a Metamorphose or something. And they go Sacred Cat, and I go Prologue, and they Pyro. It's alright. I can just Merchant Scroll for another one. But I'm running out of time. And I have still only have 1 blue source of mana, and effectively 0 Prism. So yeah, I will need to draw well if I'm going to get out of this one. And I decided to do a blank Weather there. I do draw a Prism. So but I think I'd have to draw my 4th here if I want to continue to go off. That into Prologue, into Augury. Yes, a shame I had used my Weather there. It's like maybe I could have stayed alive longer if I could have used it here. I do draw the Giga Drowse, which I hope can perhaps keep me alive. Of note, they still have red up for Pyroblast if they had it. Then I can go Augury, and then I proliferate into Roots, and I proliferate. This Giga Drowse again not looking very good here. I probably shouldn't have boarded in. It's not nearly as good as a Fog as Moment's Peace. But, that's why I do these things to learn, so I probably won't boarding Giga Drowse against this deck anymore. And as you saw with Smash Dust, it's not a Dispel. So, yeah, it was a bit of a mistake boarding there. Anyway, I lost the second game as well, so I only went 3-2 for this league. But you know, it's only my sixth league, and it's a pretty small sample size. But I guess I'll share how I've gone. So in descending order. So I have two 4-1s, two 3-2s, including this one, and two 2-3s. So it doesn't really say very much about how the deck plays. Besides, I feel pretty confident that once you're familiar with the deck enough, you could take it to league and not get steamrolled. That's probably about as much as you could say with the information that I have. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun playing. That much I know for sure. Anyway, I hope to see you again, and that was the league. Have a good one.